Good afternoon, friends. Hello, and welcome to the 12th edition of the webinar series that we have started under the banner of International Human Resources Development Initiative, which is a non-profit organization set up by various professionals and friends from various fields of life to give back to the society what we term as the professional or personal social initiative. So, under this initiative, friends, we have already conducted 11 webinars, and today we are conducting another webinar on a very, very important topic today, which is very relevant as of in today's time. Friends, the only thing constant in the world is change. That is what is said by one of the great philosophers, and things are changing every day with the technology coming up, a lot of technology going obsolete, then new things arriving, the uh, the how the economy is functioning, how the business is functioning, how various, I mean, many things that we never thought would be possible yesterday is possible today, and they are going from strength to strength. And friends, during this time, one of the good things that has happened is the convergence of technology has taken place. The world has actually become flat. George Friedman, in his very notional book, the Earth is Flat, writes that there are certain circumstances, there are certain reasons why the Earth has become flat, meaning thereby that you can move from one place to the other, and thereafter you can come back. There's a lot of convergence in the way things are being moving. Today we are doing the work in India, which is outsourced to us from America and other countries. We can just pick up a telephone or a mobile phone and ring up somebody who's as far as North America or South America. We can just move to take a aeroplane and move and to the another country within no time as such. So the world is changing very fast, friends, and this has to lot to do with technological convergence that is taking place. Many so these are many good things that have come with convergence, and I think the best that has arrived is that the monetary transactions with this convergence is also possible. So if you remember, with the privatization of banking coming up, lot many issues came in the way, and lot many facilities they were provided, in the sense that now you had ATM machines, you had net banking, you have mobile banking. So all these being provided, wherein the idea was to make the lives easier, the makes the lives of the citizens and all stakeholders easier as such. So friends, and those people who are, who were in the 1990s and who have seen that era when between the 80s and all, how difficult it was to go to the bank and then do all the transactions. And today every transactions can be done in terms of while you are sitting at your place and on your mobile phone. So friends, the technologies has made our life much easier, and with the demonetization and the COVID times coming up, a lot of push was given to the technology aspect, wherein we said it as a cashless transaction or less cash transactions, meaning thereby the idea was that the convergence of your Aadhaar number with your PAN card number and then with your bank account number. So this has facilitated and helped the people to linking and integration of your entire thing, so that you have anywhere anytime banking. You had you can go stop over any time, and you can come out with the amount of money that you require on any bank as such, or any ATM of any bank as such. So this made us lives much easier, and couple this with the social networking that has come up with the Facebook and the Twitter accounts, the Instagrams, and then people are generally online now. So this is the new thing that has happened over all this time period. And if you just see the younger generation, they are online every time. So this is the trend that is happening as such. So friends, generally, just take a situation while you are in your drawing room relaxing, or in your bedroom relaxing on a Saturday evening like this, and you just get a call from somewhere, there's a sweet voice that I am Ria, calling from this, and sir, you will be congratulations, sir, you are have been chosen as one of our premier customers, and you won a lottery amount of rupees 6 lakhs. And sir, we are just sending you an OTP of 6 digit. Kindly revert this to us, and we'll put 6 lakhs into your account. And you are a gullible person, common man, have some amount in your bank account, and you think that I never participated in such kind of a lottery program. But she says that we have chosen you amongst the Airtel or Geo customers, and you have been the chosen one, and you feel so happy. Congratulations, sir! And you just get a ting, and there's an OTP coming on your mobile phone, the 6 digit, and you just tell her 747372, and the okay, she says thank you, and just after 5 minutes you get a message that an amount of rupees 2 lakhs has been debited from your bank account number, blah 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 blah. So what is this? Actually, you have got embroiled in a fraud, wherein there has been an online fraudulent transaction. Somebody was knowing about your bank details, maybe courtesy or social bank account, or maybe wherein you had used your ATM card at some POS, and then they just wanted this OTP, which you gave them very easily. So, friends, this is how the transaction takes place. In today's newspaper, Dainik Bhaskar, it says that man was somebody some girl sent Facebook friend request to some person, and they were talking to each other for some time. This girl was based in America. After 3-4 months of acquaintances, she says that I have nobody to take care of, but I have a lot of money in my account. I want, and now you are a good friend of mine, I want some of the money to be given to you. So I'll be sending you this money in cash and dollars. So you kindly acknowledge. And thereafter, after 7 days or 6 days, there's a call. He says, I am from the courier agency. You have had, a parcel is there in from America or some place, and the transportation or the courier cost is rupees 48,000. So kindly deposit this money in such bank account, and it shows that who has sent this is the same girl who was your acquaintance. So you just now they were friends, and this 48,000 the gullible man deposited in that bank account. And over a period of time, not 40, adding up to these, the amount adds up to more than 13 lakhs as such. And then later it was found out that everything was being done from India. It was fake, and the person had to make good the loss of 13 lakhs. And now she has befriended and blocked him. So this is another which is happening as such. So friends, what is actually doing it? This is a new kind of things that is therein, wherein when we are saying cyber crime and cyber frauds on what has happened is the convergence of computer with crime as such, and with a network wherein you are defrauded of your privacy, you are defrauded of your money, you are defrauded of your certain data as such. So cyber crime as such, we know that it may be make a person vulnerable, a company, it may and then maybe some nation security also, as you would be seeing that even the United Nations White House data was rigged, and rather it was compromised. And thereafter, again, if we talk about the cyber crimes, it may even include the cyber sex trafficking also, and the morphing of the videos, maybe some the pictures and all. that people share on the Facebook or other platforms, they are morphed and they are then traded as such on these platforms as such. So friends, uh, overall, when we talk about all these, then what comes to the mind is that through the use of technology, somebody is trying to defraud by getting the information that you have as such. So, and it is a risk to everybody, to a person, to an organization whose entire data can be stolen, and to even a nation also, like, and the nation to the tune of America, wherein the data was stolen. The United Nations, the White House entire data was compromised at one point of a time. So therefore, nobody as such can be saved from all this. And then only thing is the prevention aspect as such. So friends, today we have three very eminent panelists who will be talking a lot, who will be talking about all these issues. Though this is a very big issue as such, but then during this 90 minutes time that we have got three very eminent panelists who have seen it and done it all. So friends, the first panelist that we have is Mr. Abhishek Upadhyay. He is a senior legal counsel in Mumbai High Court, and he is also the head of Advocate Upadhyay and Associates. And he is the one who has got a lot of hands-on experience dealing all these into the court of law. So friends, please welcome Mr. Abhishek Upadhyay. Welcome, sir. The second panelist that we have is Mr. JPS Talwar. Mr. Talwar, as you know, he is here. He is a part of our organizing team also, and he's generally on all the webinars that we do. He's a banker by profession and by passion, I would say. He is presently working as the chief manager for Indian Bank New Delhi, and roughly around 25 years of experience into financial institutions and earlier, and then now into bank. So welcome, Mr. Talwar. I hope the discussion will be very fruitful. So he'll be generally talking about the financial aspect or financial frauds. The third and the last but not the least, a very important eminent panelist that we have today is Mr. R.C. Khatri. And Khatri Saab is presently working as the Deputy Superintendent of Police in Central Bureau of Investigation or CBI. And as you know, in Ria's case, CBI is into a lot of limelight as such. So he is the one who's representing CBI. And he's got more than 15 years of experience. Now presently working as, in the special crime branch of New Delhi since last 6 months. But he has also worked in various anti-corruption branches of good and big cities like Chandigarh, Jaipur, Gandhinagar, Dhanbad, etc. So he brings in a lot of experience in terms of investigation of cyber crimes, and then what precautions would be taken, and maybe certain case study. So friends, after the three speakers who will be speaking on the issues, our objective is to talk to learn about, after going through what the discourse is, we'll be able to know that what is the criminal justice system in India with regard to cyber crimes. This is the question number one. What are financial frauds and what are the banking frauds, and how do we prevent them? Thirdly, how are cyber crimes investigated? How do the evidence is collected? How should we retain the evidence? And what are the certain do's and don'ts in terms of the cyber frauds, and how we can prevent such cyber frauds as such. So friends, not taking long, now I request my first speaker of the day, Shri Abhishek Upadhyay, to take up from here and talk about his own experience in the field, and especially with regard to the criminal system in India, and what is the focus on in respect of the cyber crimes. And sir, I'll request you to talk within the time frame of roughly 20 to 25 minutes. So thereafter the three speakers, we can have certain questions and answer round also. So over to you, sir.
Thank you,
Yeah, Mr.
Chandani,
Abhishek.
for the very,
Good
very
afternoon.
warm introduction, and a warm welcome to all the viewers here who have, spent their valuable time to understand what is cyber fraud, what are cyber scams, and how does the cyber what is the modus operandi of these various types of cyber frauds and cyber crimes. So before we start this presentation, or before we delve deep into the topic of cybercrime, let us first of all start with some very interesting statistics. If we talk on the international level, we are among the top 5 countries today that are most vulnerable to credit card frauds. If we talk on the national level, Maharashtra as a state tops in cyber crimes for against women and children. Everyone knows that the population of India is 133 crores, but there are not more than 10,000 cybersecurity trained professionals in India. So when we have this sort of an alarming ratio, one thing that comes to my mind is the importance of awareness and sensitization about the topic of cyber fraud and cyber crimes. Now, this kind of awareness and sensitization should generally start from the public, because the public is the custodian of its own data. As you put a very strong lock to all your physical assets, it is today, in today's age and stage, it is very necessary that you also put a very strong lock to all your digital assets as well. So the awareness and sensitization should first start from the public. The second area that needs to be made aware and sensitized is also from the side of the judiciary. Because if you understand the Information Technology Act, the Information Technology Act was enacted in the year 2000. The last amendment came in the year 2008. So if you consider the scenario 10 to 12 years back, or even 20 years back, there wasn't any Facebook, there wasn't any WhatsApp, there wasn't any transactions that were taking place online. There were no digital wallets. So all these things were not there. So right now we can say that there is a big gap between the act and the current technology that is being used, and the modus operandi using which cyber frauds are committed. So that is one area that needs to be aware and made sensitized as well. And the third area is also the investigation agency, which is the police in this case, because I feel even they should be up to date in terms of the various modus operandi or the kind of technologies that are being used to commit these kind of frauds. Now, when I start talking about this topic of cyber frauds and cyber crime, I always, remember this, case that happened when I was giving a seminar in one of the colleges in Mumbai. And there was one particular student who actually, after the webinar came up to me and said that, sir, I really need to speak to you about, because there is something really important and, something that is really, troubling me or creating a huge impact on my educational career. I said, unfortunately, I did not have the time to speak to him that time, but I gave him my contact details and I called him in the office the next day. When he came to the office, looking at his body language, I could understand that, this person is emotionally disturbed, because he was a little shabbily dressed, a lot of dark circle under his eyes. So, looking at his, physical persona, I could understand that there is something that is, emotionally or mentally disturbing this boy. So I asked him that, what is the reason that you wanted to, meet me so urgently? So that is the time that he, started crying, and he disclosed to me that, he accepted a friend request from one of the girls, unknown girls, and, he started chatting with that particular girl. And during the course of conversation, the chats, became more personal and intimate. And after some time, this particular girl started blackmailing this boy to give him 20,000 rupees every month. Otherwise, she'll upload the details of the chat and send it on an email to the dean of that college. Now that is the reason this boy was not able to attend the college, because he started working in a call center so that he could afford that 20,000 rupees. I understood that this problem is of a very serious nature, and I took up this matter on moral grounds. In the first leg of investigation, we came to know that the IP address using which this Facebook account was accessed was somewhere in the vicinity of the college. So one thing was for sure, that this fraudster or this extortionist, as you can call it, was operating from somewhere in the vicinity of the college. In the second level of investigation, we came to know that it was actually a big shock to us that this particular extortionist was not a girl, but it was the boy who was sharing the same room in his college and sharing the same bench with him in the college. And that is why, friends, I say that your awareness and sensitization plays a huge part in safeguarding yourself or preventing yourself into becoming a victim of cyber fraud or a cyber scam. In one of the a very famous police personality in Maharashtra, his account, a fake account in his name was created, and one evening he gives me a call and he tells me that sir, we have this particular account has 5,000 followers, and lot of my batchmates, lot of the politicians, lot of IAS officers, IPS officers are following that particular group. And when we did the investigation, we came to know that this account is operated by a college going by. So all these things are happening, and that is where again and again I say that awareness and sensitization plays a very important part. Now today, let me make a few assumptions. Everyone, all the viewers today, they have a mobile phone, they have an email address, they have a WhatsApp account, they have a Facebook account, and they are using Truecaller as an application. Now, you must be thinking that he's asking very generalized questions. Everyone today has a mobile phone, everyone is using Facebook, WhatsApp, and Truecaller. What's the relevance in that? But friends, let me tell you that this question might be a little irrelevant to you, but for me, it holds a great deal of importance. Because working in the cyber fraud and cyber scams and cyber, all these things for a very long time, one thing I have come to know that even without you inserting your SIM card in your phone, a phone call can be generated from your number. Without even you inserting your SIM card, a SMS can be generated from your number. There are certain softwares that are very freely and readily available in the market for committing all these kind of frauds. I'm sure everyone must be using an email address for personal or for work purposes. But friends, let me tell you that even without knowing your email account, email ID's password, I can generate an email using a particular software, and the email will come from your email address. And hence, again and again, the focus point or the key word for today's session would be awareness and sensitization. Now, let me ask you a question. I'm sure that most of you have put your own profile picture on Facebook. Everyone has their own profile picture. I believe so, or let me make that assumption. But friends, let me tell you that this is the most riskiest thing that you have ever done. Because if anyone wants to create a fake profile, all they need to do is just cut, copy, paste, or save that particular picture, and they can create a fake profile using your particular picture. And God forbid, if a fraud happens using your profile name or your profile picture, it is going to be you who would be called for the purpose of investigation. And everyone knows that it is a very cumbersome and tiresome process, because the complexity of the issue is very grave when it comes to a cyber crime. Because tracing the digital footprints to find out the truth, it does take a little time and a little while. And that is why I say it is a little tiresome and a little cumbersome process. Now, if there are any advocates in this particular group, or any like most of us are using Facebook as an application. But if I ask you this question, that how many of you have actually checked the terms and conditions of Facebook? Has anyone actually bothered to do that? We are using this application, we are sharing all our personal information, all our personal details, our photographs, the best occasions in our lives, and all good things we are sharing and getting the world to know more about us. But the application or the platform that we are using, has anyone bothered to read the terms and conditions of that particular platform? Because if you read the terms and conditions, you will come to know that Facebook as a platform does not take any responsibility of the information that you have uploaded. On the other hand, it puts an obligation on you that you should ensure that you fill in all the correct and true details about you. but there is no mention of the safety or the security of the data that we are, uploading over there, because they put the onus on us. Let us talk about Truecaller. Truecaller as an application, what is the purpose of Truecaller? The purpose of Truecaller is to give you information about a person who's not in your contact list. So at some point of time, it will give you his name. At some point of time, it will give you the service provider. And at some point of time, it will also give you the location. Friends, if my memory is not wrong, let me tell you that in the year 2014, a big data hacking incident happened wherein the data of 10 lakh Indians was compromised. We are using this Truecaller application so freely, but do we even know that where are the servers of Truecaller located? Can anybody answer this question in this group? Let me tell you, friends, that the servers are not located in India. They are located in a country by the name of Sweden in Europe. So there is a big territorial or jurisdictional issue as well. And again, if you see the terms and conditions, you will not see any guarantee or security of your information that is uploaded. And that is how and why these incidences are happening, why these fake accounts, because we do not have the kind of awareness or sensitization about the platforms that we are using on a day-to-day basis. Friends, I would just like to say that I'm not, trying to create an atmosphere of fear over here. But as a cyber, professional and a citizen of India, I feel that it is my responsibility to make you aware about the real facts and scenario that is happening currently. So, I would just like to say that I'm not trying to create an atmosphere of fear over here, but we should be aware and sensitized about the real scenarios that are actually going on in today's world. I recollect this, recent case that happened during the Corona time, wherein, one of the social workers was, supplying food packets, and he receives a call from a fraudster, wherein he's portraying himself to be a political leader from one of the districts in Maharashtra, and he offers him to send him some money as donation. He shares he tells him that bank account से करने के लिए time लग जाएगा, so why don't I send this money on your Google Pay account? He gives his Google Pay ID, he gives him a QR code to scan. So instead of him receiving the money, 30,000-40,000 rupees get debited from his account. Because today there are certain softwares that are available without even knowing your Google PIN. You just have to click on that link and money, or you just have to scan that QR code and the money will be siphoned off from your account. Now, when it comes to cyber frauds and cyber crimes, everyone is talking about the modus operandi. Everyone knows what are the kind of cyber frauds. As Chaddaji rightly pointed out, the various kind of banking frauds, the various kind of e-commerce portal frauds, the various kind of job frauds, or the various kind of friendship and gift frauds that are happening today. Let us take a minute and let us try to understand what is the psychology of a cyber fraudster. As the cyber fraudster is studying the psychology of the victim, let us take a minute to understand what is the psychology of a cyber fraudster. So today, if you see, the cyber fraudster is actually trying to exploit the basic human emotion of greed. They will give you offers that are too good to be true. They will make you win lotteries. They will give you bonus point on your credit card and debit card accounts. All they are trying to make you is a gullible victim, and they are trying to do that by exploiting the basic human emotion of greed. I had one of the cases wherein one of the persons was defrauded to the amount of 2.78 lakhs under the guise of giving him a job in Australia. His only fault was that he was not aware and he was not sensitized. Under the garb of custom charges, immigration charges, work visa charges, medical charges, XYZ charges, 2.78 lakh rupees was siphoned off from his account. And his only mistake was that he was not aware and he was not sensitized. because after giving that amount, after depositing that amount into the fraudster's account, that is when he applied his due diligence to actually call up the Australian embassy to check if this company is really if this company is genuine or fake. Had he been aware or more sensitized, or had he had more you can say knowledge about all these things, I'm sure that, or maybe he would have used his own due diligence at that point of time, he could have saved himself from making this fraud, being a victim of this particular fraud. So it is very necessary that you also use your due diligence, because there is a very famous English proverb that says there are no free lunches in the world, and that is a fact. There will You are not, don't consider yourself to be that lucky that you are going to one day win a lottery of 25 and 50 lakh rupees and you are going to get rich overnight. Let me tell you, friends, you are not winning the lottery. In fact, you are losing the money and you are becoming a victim to a cyber fraud. Now today, when we are talking about these cyber frauds or various kind of cyber crimes, also let me tell you that now we talk about, now we spoke in length about the cyber frauds or cyber crimes. Now let us try to understand how legally well tuned are we to basically attack any problem when it comes to cyber fraud or cyber crime. So as I started, friends, I always told you that this act was enacted in the year 2000. So this act is 12, the last amendment came in the year 2008. So this is a 12-year-old act, and a pretty old act, which is not I would say compatible to deal with the complex issues that are going on in terms of the cyber fraud and cyber crimes. Also, most of the sections in this particular act are bailable, and the fine is not more than 3 to 5 lakh rupees. So when the quantum of punishment, when the quantum of fines are increased, because today if I'm committing a fraud of 1 crore rupees and I'm getting a jail term of just 3 years, it's not sufficed. And if I'm getting a penalty of 2 lakh rupees or 3 lakh rupees, that penalty and that jail time is not justified. So tomorrow anyone can commit, and that is why you can if you see series like this Jamtara and all, the situation is much worse in this small in this smaller areas, wherein people don't mind to actually spend the jail time and come back from the jail after committing the fraud, because the quantum of punishment is very less. And unfortunately that is the harsh reality, because I was just talking about this job fraud, wherein my client was defrauded to the tune of 2 crore 78 lakh rupees. Two Nigerians were caught in this particular fraud. In one of the Nigerians account 3 lakh rupees was deposited. He returned the money and he got acquitted from that particular case. The second guy said that, okay, I have received only 2 lakh rupees, but instead of spending jail time in Nigeria, I'm happy to spend jail time in India and I'll go back. He was given a punishment of 2 years and he's a free man after that. So that is why I always say that it is very necessary from the side of the right now in a country like India, wherein Facebook has the largest number of users in India, Instagram has the largest database in India, LinkedIn, all these big size, they have the largest user base in India. But still, India as a country, we don't have a data protection policy. The data protection bill is just in the stages of being passed. But right now, with the amount of data that has been transmitted from India, I'm sure that such certain kind of policies and all are very necessary and important. Now, today I'll give you a very small exercise to do. Please, I request everyone to do that in their free time. As per the information technology rules, it is imperative that any e-commerce site should display the name of the grievance officer and the privacy policy on at a very prominent place on the website. But I would request you all to see all the e-commerce platforms, all the famous e-commerce platforms today, and see if you see the privacy policy or the name of the grievance officer at a very prominent place. Most of the times it will be given in some of the corners or the bottom somewhere of the website in a very small font. So all the rules and all the policies are there, but I feel personally that implementation is a huge challenge that we are facing today. There are lot of policies that talk about, and we should understand that, as per the policies, why this all these applications are able to they're able to get this information. Today, if you see the terms and condition of Facebook, it clearly says that we are going to share this data with our third party partners. And these third party partners also proclaim on their website that they would also, if the need arises, share this data with their third party partners. So if you see, this is a huge chain wherein the transmission of data is happening. And that is the reason accessibility is increased today. And that is the reason more accessibility, more personal information is out, and more, your data is at risk. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi ji, very rightly said that data is the new oil. Please understand why he has given the importance of data to oil. Today, oil has the power to, fluctuate the world markets. And even if you see today, data has the same, power. A person who's in, possession of data is is considered to be the world leaders. If you talk about countries like America, why they are so successful? Because they have lot of access to lot of data and information about their public. And forget about their public, they have created companies like Google and Facebook. They don't even have access to their own country's data, they have access to the data of all the countries. And that is one of the main key reasons that they are, see, when a person understands his target audience, that is when he tries to come up with a solution for them, or come up with something that is beneficial for them. Today my point is that it is not that we should stop using technology, because technology was created to make the life simpler, to make life easy. That is the reason technology was created. But as it is always said that every coin has two sides. So as Sanjeev ji rightly pointed out, as there is technology that is happening from the good angle, there are also certain nuances wherein the technology is being used for fraudulent purposes as well. And as the public, we should be taking responsibility for this, because when we download any of these foreign applications, we just click on the link that says I have read the terms and conditions without actually reading them. So the onus and the responsibility of using your own diligence always starts with you. We never bother to see all this, because we don't understand, until and unless a fraud happens with us, we don't understand the importance of data security. So today, since we have spoken in length about, I'm sure I've completed 15-20 minutes for sure. So since I'm ending my time on in the next 5 minutes, I'll just tell you certain tips that will help you to remain safe in the, or will help you to safeguard yourself from being a victim of cyber fraud. So my first tip is that you should always keep your personal accounts and your financial accounts different. Today, in today's age and stage, everyone is using digital wallets like Google Pay. Everyone is using net banking. So always keep a separate account for net banking or your digital transactions, and keep only limited amount of cash in that, nothing more than 3,000 to 5,000. Because the accounts that have more amount of cash, do not use internet banking on that accounts. Keep these money separate. So whenever, see, in today's age and stage, net banking and digital wallets are required. So what you can do is you can create a separate account wherein you keep very limited amount of cash in that particular digital wallet or that particular bank account, and use that account for your net banking purposes, or attach this account to your digital wallets. Secondly, keep a separate phone number that will be linked to this digital wallets and to these bank accounts, so that your personal information does not get compromised. Only use this particular number wherein you will get OTP on that particular number only, and this particular number will only be attached to your particular digital wallet if you are using one. Third thing, keep a separate email address and link this separate email address to that particular net banking account or your digital wallet. So basically, we are just trying to create a separate link wherein we are keeping limited amount of cash wherein digital transactions are being utilized, and the other personal cash that we have stocked up by doing hard work in our life, that can remain safe in an account which doesn't have these digital services. because you never know when the account might get hacked, because there are so many systems, so many software, third party software that are involved. So safeguarding your data becomes very difficult. So that is why you should always keep a separate bank account which will be having limited amount of cash. You should keep a separate phone number that will be attached to this bank account and digital wallets, and also keep a separate email address that will be attached to your net banking or your separate digital wallets. And the fourth part is the common part. I would not say this, because that if you don't have that amount of due diligence, that then I would say that only God can save you, which is not sharing your passwords and your personal details. So that is a given thing. That is something that you should not be trained or tutored for. That is something that should come from within. So these are few methods that will definitely help you to remain safe and secure in the future. And I think that your more and more we everyone become aware, more and more all these frauds will keep on diminishing. And I'm sure that in the times to come, we will become a cyber safe and cyber secure nation. By saying that, I conclude my conversation here, and I pass it on to Sanjeev ji, who can pass it on to the next speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abhishek ji, for such an informative session on a very, very vital topic. And again, thanks for being so crisp, because I think the entire session was not only informative in the sense it talked about what the law says, and it was also laced with certain case studies which implement. And I think it was given us way forward also what not to do and to do. And rather, while listening to you, even I was a little scared of how the things are panning out. And but you rightly said that we need not rather be scared. We have to live with this, because that is what technology is all about. And then we have to mitigate the risks which are therein by being certainly prudent and by due diligence as such. So thank you, Abhishek ji, for this. Now to take this forward, I request the second speaker of the day, Mr. JPS Talwar, who's a banker and who has done it and seen it all from very close quarters, how the banking frauds are done and now what they do, what the banking policy says, to how to avoid all this stuff and all. So friends, please welcome Mr. JPS Talwar. He'll be the second speaker. Good afternoon, Talwar Saab. Welcome. You are muted. Talwar Saab, you are muted. Please put the mic on. We can't hear you.
Very good afternoon to everybody. I'm audible now.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Very good afternoon, everyone. Advocate Abhishek Upadhyay ji has very elaborately and very detailed ways already explained all the pros and cons of the cyber frauds and crime. So it is very few points which are left untouched by him. But still, I try to explore the points where I feel the points which are to be deliberated, especially from banking point of view, especially from the financial fraud point of view. Today, we are living in a virtual world. Virtual world means in virtual world we have a two identity. One is a physical identity and second is a virtual identity. When we are living in a virtual world, our virtual identity travels at the speed of internet, on the bus of internet. Wherever our digital or virtual presence is, we are there as we are vulnerable for any type of a crime or any type of a fraud. As we are, let's talk about the Indian. In Indian, we are not much tech savvy. So there are two set of population in India. One is a young generation and second is a mature generation. Mature generation is not very much tech savvy. They easily rely upon others to give them a helping hand in using technology. They are most vulnerable to the cyber crimes and cyber fraud. By profession, I am a banker. In my day-to-day banking, I always, not always, or day-to-day banking, I come across at least 30, 40 problems, 30, 40 complaints that my customers are frauded to various internet or cyber methods. So when we talk about why the individuals or why a bank account holder is being frauded because of on internet, the main thing come is a greed or a innocence. Advocate Abhishek ji has very well pointed out that greed is the main source of reason for the cyber fraud. I add to it, along with the greed, innocence, not awareness of a technology is another reason in India why the cyber crimes and cyber frauds are happening. The When we talk about the committing a fraud, cyber fraudsters need your individual's identity. I talk about the individual identity, it is a virtual identity. Whenever you are using your bank, you are using any banking platform offered you by the RBI, banks offer you various financial tools. A basic tool is your account, and when you want to use your account, banks offer you various tools how to link your accounts with your that is through internet. Moment your account is linked to the internet, your account is vulnerable to the cyber fraudster, is available to the cyber fraudster. And how these fraudster can use your account for their own benefit. All of your accounts are not only single lock, it's 4-time locks. There are 4 locks are applied by the banks on every account. First account is your individual password. Password is given to the all account holder whenever he is using the digital that is a platform to make the transaction successful. First is your account number, that is your identity with the bank. Second is your password. Third is a OTP. Whenever a financial transaction is being conducted on an online platform, for successful conduction of your transaction, a OTP is always sent after confirmation. When you insert that one-time password in on online platform, the transaction is successful. These are the 3 tools, and 4th tool is after successful transaction, an email or a message has been sent to the registered mobile number that this transaction has been conducted. If you has performed this transaction, then okay, otherwise contact the help desk number of your bank. So these 4 platforms are being offered by every bank to its customer to safeguard him or her from all digital angles. Now, how the fraudsters are able to make the things happen. First step is they steal your identity. That is called the identity theft. How the fraudsters steal your identity? There are various tools. In the technical language, we call it wishing, phishing, or smishing. These are the technical terms. In a layman language, these terms lead to how the fraudster extract information from you. This information can be extracted from you through a phone call that is telling you that you had won a lottery, or giving you the bonus points, or telling you that ATM has been blocked, or they want to link your Aadhaar card with your account number. And the moment you respond them, the whole chain starts. And this chain ends after you give your OTP on the phone call. And moment you give OTP, you receive a call, you receive a message that your account number 3 times X, 4 times X, 3 times X, 4, 5, 6 is debited by this and this amount. So identity theft, and one of the major tool for cyber crime is identity theft. And second is a psychological tricks which frauds are used to extract information from you. And what are the psychological tricks? I gave you, we are passing through the corona pandemic, and in these days, the income of people are very reduced very much, and everybody is keeping their money in the account, and having a fear of the corona, everyone is trying to use the digital platform for making all sort of payments. When we talk about the psychological tricks, these days the fraudsters are throwing various tools, various traps, various praise in the market in which they try to attract the potential customers, where they can be attracted to those things. Such as, I gave you an example. Recently, 3-4 days back, I got a complaint from an account holder of my bank that he approached me that he received a call that Bitcoin is available to him at a throwaway price, because owner of a Bitcoin is dire need of money. in dire need of hard cash. So he asked him to deposit 3.82 lakhs in his account, and he will give you 3 bitcoins for this amount. And when in international terms, the cost of the bitcoin is about 14 to 15 lakh rupees. So when that businessman to that businessman, a same bitcoin is available at about 4 lakh of rupees, he was lured, and he deposited that amount in his account, and moment that amount was deposited, that fraudster demanded another 8,000 US dollars equivalent amount to be deposited in other account so that a transaction can complete. And this chain continue and continue, and ultimately that account holder was defrauded with 24 lakhs of rupees. So this is how the psychological tricks are being played by the fraudster to siphon off your money. Another source of this cyber fraud is through social media links. Cybercrime is not only linked with the financial aspects, it's also linked with the matrimonial aspects also. So social media sites are sometimes fake gentleman or fake male boy, a boy present his identity as a good-looking female and try to attract a male, and vice versa. And after developing a relationship, a virtual relationship, he or she start demanding money to be deposited in their account. So in this way, the social media platform is also being used for making the financial fraud. Another two aspects are attack on your digital instruments. As on date, we are using two digital instruments. One is a handheld device that is called mobile or a tab, and second is a not handheld, that is a laptop or a computer. So these fraudsters are sending you the WhatsApp messages or SMS messages or an email in your accounts. Moment you click on the links, a software that is a virus is being installed on your computer or on your mobile. That software immediately attack on your personal information, and that information is passed through internet to the and reach to that fraudster. And that fraudster is able to steal your identity and can use that identity for making all sort of cyber crimes. And in case of a computer, sometimes we have received a complaint that individual's computer is being blocked by the hackers and fraudsters, and they start demanding money. And one of the innovative tool for taking money is a Bitcoin. They say deposit up to Bitcoin in my account, then I'll make your computer available for your working. So the computer holder or account holder or a digital instrument holder left with no choice but to give that ransom. I will use the word ransom to the hacker to reuse his computer, because data, as on date, data is the owner of a data is a king. The moment your digital instrument is hacked or is being stopped by the hacker, you are left nowhere but you are in compromising position to surrender to the hacker and to give whatever he wants. So when we talk about the digital or financial frauds, so there are the various tools the fraudsters are using. I explained you various tools, that is a wishing, phishing, and smishing. In smishing, SMS is sent. In phishing, an email is sent, and all these things are done. And how these now the question arises, when a money is traveling in an account, there is a financial trail or financial footstep is there. We can always catch hold of person in whose ultimately amount has been landed. So these financial fraudsters are using money moles. I received a complaint about last week, where in individual my account holder complained that he received a call from Yatri.com for a Andaman Nicobar package to offer to him moment this corona pandemic is over, and that deal is very lucrative. He asked him to deposit money in his account. He deposited that account money in the account number being offered to him. The moment the money is being deposited in the account, the fraudster stopped calling him and he vanished from the scene. And when he complained me, he complained our bank investigated, and we reach to the account holder in whose money in whose accounts the money was deposited. We are astonished to know the account holder is an old man of 80 years doing buffalo, who is a grazing, whose business is the grazing of buffaloes, and he is living in Sirsa. So what to do now? So what happened? Fraudster offered some money to that poor fellow who allowed his ATM card who permitted his ATM card, who offered his ATM card to fraudster, and that fraudster used his account for getting the money in his account, and moment money is deposited in his account, he used the ATM to withdraw the money. So in this way, these fraudsters are doing the thing. And recently, a web series, what Advocate Abhishek has quoted as Jamantara. Jamantara is a very nice example of what is happening in the society and how easily we are vulnerable to these fraudsters. So we have to take a very extra precautions while dealing our banking tips. So now banks offer you various platforms for online banking. First offer is a net banking. Then how to secure your net banking? First of all is keep your ID and password confidential as far as possible. Don't ever share your ID and password with anybody. First. And second, keep changing your password frequently. Even banks also insist to change your password after every 45 days so that your password is not compromised. Even if you have shared your password with someone else, so after 45 days you are safe from that thing. Again, the question arises: today we are living in the virtual world. Everything is password protected. How many passwords we remember? This is a basic question arises. So my dear friends, it is up to you how much secure you want to be, and moment you keep your password, easy password is just like putting a poor lock on your door or poor lock on your wallet. जितना आप हल्का ताला अपने दरवाजे पर लगाएंगे, चोरों को आप उतना ही आमंत्रित करेंगे, आओ मेरा दरवाजा तोड़ो और दरवाजा तोड़ के मेरा खजाना ले जाओ। इसलिए मेरी रिक्वेस्ट आपसे है, कभी भी अपना पासवर्ड किसी से शेयर ना करें। दूसरा, एक स्ट्रॉन्ग पासवर्ड लगाएं। और अगर आपको कोई इश्यूज आते हैं कि पासवर्ड रिमेंबर याद रखने के लिए, तो एक कॉमन पासवर्ड रख के उसके अंदर एक कुछ हर एक बैंकिंग ट्रांजैक्शन यू पुट सम स्पेशल कैरेक्टर, और अदर ट्रांजैक्शंस you quote some other that is a special character, so that you can remember the password also, and you keep changing the password also, and you keep your financial transactions secure. And second, third point is how to keep your net banking secure. Never use your the net banking from unsecured network. By unsecured network, I mean never use these things from the platform from where from the instrument or from a digital platform from where many people are using, like cyber cafes, from the office computers, where office common computers, or other platform where many people are using that computer. Next point is, do not click on the emails to you which you assume they are not genuine. There are chances that trojans or the virus be thrown in your account through these emails. Always visit the bank net banking site through bank homepage only. Don't use sometimes we use the initial words, full name pop up in the computer, and we click on that name and we are guided to the website. Don't use that tool to get guided away on the respective website. Always try to insert full name of your financial bank or of your bank on your own. And secondly, whenever you use your bank site, try to see that it starts with HTTP and ends with S. S stands for a secure site, and inside of it there is a padlock, and always sees that padlock is locked. That padlock is not unlocked. So whenever you see the padlock is open, that means that information is not encrypted, and the information which you are sending is can be used by someone who is not authorized to access the site. Whenever the website is encrypted, the information you send is point-to-point transmission. Whatever your information you send, it get encrypted by transmission and get decrypted at the destination. So that is a secure site. Always try to use HTTPS site for using your financial transactions. Never use a site which is not secured site. So this is a way how you can safeguard your internet banking tips. And one more thing, sometimes we use a keypad of a computer for punching the OTP or password. On most suggestion, always use the virtual keypad while punching your passwords and the OTP numbers in the system, because virtual keypads don't have thermal footprints. However, these physical keypads has a thermal prints. If a fraudster wants to extract the password what you had punched, it's very easy. And secondly, there is a software which can help you, which can trace the keystroke of a computer in the network, and the person sitting at the remote and can always have access to what you are typing, what you are punching through keyboard. So when you are using the virtual keyboard, this chance is always eliminated. So these are the few tips how you can safeguard your net banking. Now another tool is a ATM bank. ATMs are being offered by the banks to facilitate you for the financial transaction. In ATM, again, OTP concept is there. Now ATM you can use for online transaction as well as for the withdrawal of the money and making the payments at point of sale or for the purchase and POS machines. So when you are using your ATM, in ATM machine, if you see something suspicious in ATM machine, never use that machine first. And second, never use the ATM machine which is not guarded by the security guard. Now these days banks are facing a problem that in an ATM machine, we banks have to deploy 3 guards for 24 hours in an 8-hour shift. So one guard officially his cost to the bank is for 8-hour service is about 24 to 25,000. So that means if a ATM machine is being installed by the bank and is guarded by a ATM, along with the rental of the site, the minimum landed cost to the bank apart from the transaction cost is 1,50,000 cost. So this is a huge cost which the banks are incurring on their ATM. Installing one ATM machine and just to safeguard your interest. So few banks, what they are doing, they are not allowing the ATM in night time. They only a daytime operations are allowed. And secondly, in very busy places, the ATM machines are left alone. They are not being guarded by the security guard. So I request you not to use the ATM machines which are not guarded by the security guard. So there are chances some hacker might have installed some device to skim out or to extract your information of your ATM card. And second point of application of ATM is POS machine. Don't hand over your ATM card to a person on which you cannot rely. I am receiving a regular complaint from right now I'm posted in Delhi, so I'm receiving complaints from Najafgarh area, from Darwi side, and from Ghaziabad area that there are some pubs. And there are certain petrol points from where ATMs are being cloned. Fortunately, these days pubs are being closed. I received the pubs pubs your ATM cards and credit card been cloned. When reason being that at pub point the individual is not in good state of senses, so there are chances his ATM is compromised. Third place of point is using your ATM in online shopping. And for online shopping, all precautions what you can take while securing your net banking protection, you are requested to avail all those precautions while using your ATM in using that point. Next point of how to secure your phone banking transaction. So phone banking has replaced your net banking and up to certain level your that is what you call it, your ATM transactions also. The phone banking transactions are called those transactions which can be performed from your mobile device. So whenever the phone banking transactions are happening, there is a 4-digit password OTP is generated along with your login password and as well as your transaction password. And don't ever share your OTP password with anyone. So there are various. Someone has unmuted his mic. I request all of you to mute your voice. Is creating a disturbance. So whenever an individual is using his phone banking, it's always advisable not to share the OTP password. So sometimes what happen, there are the certain third-party products. One is the banking platform, and whenever like Paytm and other sites like railway reservation ticket sites, railway platform is a different platform. A banking platform is a bit different platform. Moment you click on make the payment, your your railway platform shift to your banking platform is linked to banking platform to third-party channel. So in such cases, whenever there is a linkage in third-party transaction, there are chances of fraud. So it's always advisable to always use a secure site. And secondly, just now Advocate Abhishek has pointed out about a Google Pay. There are various platforms which are authorized by the RBI and various platforms which are not authorized by the RBI. And Google Pay is one of the platforms which is not authorized by the RBI. So it is requested to use the RBI authorized platforms on which you conduct the transactions in case the fraud happens, in case there is your money is not received by the beneficiary. RBI is there, RBI complaint platform is there, proper investigation is there, in which after the period of 60 days, if your transaction, your complaint is genuine, your transaction is reversed. So these are the few tips on how you can safeguard yourself through internet banking. So now let's come on the banking transaction. In banking transaction, whenever a fraud happens, we call it UABT transaction. UAEBT, unauthorized electronic banking transaction. So whenever UABT transaction happens, we treat it in different way. The moment we receive the complaints, we give a shadow balance, shadow credit to the complainant, and we start investigating the whole matter. We have a special fraud detection cell at our project office or our tax office to investigate whether this transaction is a genuine transaction or is this transaction is done by the fraudster or this transaction is happened with the consent of the account holder. Moment it is proved that this transaction happened with the consent of a account holder, whole onus is transferred to the account holder. Banks are not liable for any or that is penalties. So it is always advisable, and I request you all to safeguard your virtual identity. Don't disclose your virtual identity to anyone. In case your virtual identity is compromised, no one is going to save it. Always put a strong lock on your wallet so that nobody can break open your wallet. And second way to safeguard yourself is always to have a separate account. What Advocate Abhishek has practiced said. Always try to have a small balance account on which you perform all your digital transactions. So that if some cyber attack happen on you, only a small amount will be at risk, not your whole saving is on the risk. And secondly, try to use, there is another tool which is instrument which is being offered by the bank, that is called a pay card. Instead of using your credit card, your debit card, your ATM card or making the online shopping, try to use your pay card for making all these transactions. Because moment you start using a pay card, again pay card is a chargeable device on which you make a charge of a certain amount. that certain fixed amount is only at the risk. And another thing, what banks are offering, they are offering automatic lock. Whenever you automatic lock is available on is offered to you on through your mobile. The mobile app being offered by your bank. Always put a transaction lock on all your online devices. Whenever you wish to make the transaction, only that time open your lock, and after making a transaction, put again the transaction lock through your mobile application being offered by the bank, whether it's Indian Bank, it is SBI Bank, whether it's the PNB Bank. In all mobile banking application, there is this option is there. This is a wonderful option. In this way, you can safeguard yourself. There is a saying, prevention is better than cure. So if you prevent yourself, there are chances you are safeguard from the fraudsters or cyber criminals. But it's very difficult to safeguard yourself because greed and your ignorance will always lead you in the pothole. With this word, I hand over the dice to Sanjeev Chadha for giving me opportunity to speak on this very
Right,
important topic. And
yeah,
welcome Mr. Kataria as a speaker. Thank you.
yeah, thank you, JPS Talwarji, for such an informative discourse on what is happening in the banking sector, what are the certain do's and don'ts, how can we avoid certain frauds. And I think you and Abhishek sir, the common things are that it is all in the humanly prudence and the due diligence that one has to apply. Do not be engraved with the human behaviors and emotions like greed, and do not fall prey to all this, because I think it is the greed which the fraudsters go on, and they would like to defraud you for your money as such. And plus simple things like you should have your password protected, should not share it with others, should keep on changing it, and then come out with maybe different phone number, different email ID, and a different password for all the transactions which you are doing as such, not in a bulk, but for your own personal aspects, and do not share it with all this. Thank you, Talwarji, for this. Now the third speaker of the day, Shri R.C. Khatri. He is a Deputy Superintendent of Police in the Central Bureau of Investigation. And after the last part, wherein there's a law which caters to this, there are the frontline people like the bankers and all who have to face all this. Then ultimately it boils down to the police and the investigation agencies to make a foolproof case, so that this case is then taken to the court of law, wherein it holds good and the punishment is given to the fraudster and somebody who has siphoned off the hard-earned money of the gullible people. So friends, please welcome Mr. R.C. Khatri. Khatri Sahab, I welcome you and request you to take over from here. जी. Yeah, Khatri Sahab, am I audible? Mr. Khatri? Mr. Khatri, am I audible? Rajesh ji? Am I audible, Khatri Sahab? Khatri? All right, so I think maybe some issue with this connection. So what we can do is we have certain questions which have come up. Yeah, one moment. We have certain questions which have been put in the chat box. So meanwhile, he joins us, and then we can discuss these questions. We can discuss these questions, and then maybe Rajesh Khatri will join us on this. So the first question. One moment. Yeah. The first question that somebody asked Mr. Praveen, he says that while Mr. Abhishek mentioned about that we should read the terms and conditions, uh, uh, we should read the terms and conditions always before signing up with the app. So he says that whether do we have any other option on this? Firstly, they're very small prints. Secondly, do we have an option? Let's say if there are apps like Paytm and all this Truecaller, which we would like to be in our kitty as such. So are there any options if we there are certain terms conditions which do not suit us? Then how to go about this? Yeah, Mr. Abhishek. Yeah, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, see, first thing is that it is not about that we should not be using these applications. It is about how much information, how much profile, how much information about us we share on these platforms. The reason that I always tell you to read the terms and conditions is because you should be aware about how the chain of data is going to be transmitted using this particular platforms. And if you are not happy with the chain of transfer of data, then it is always safe to not use these applications in the first place. And secondly, even if you are using these applications like Facebook, WhatsApp, and everything, it is you should be always be very careful and very sensitized about the information that you are sharing on all these platforms. Try to avoid sharing a lot of your personal information so that less amount of data is at risk. That was the meaning of that basically.
I want to.
Ravjit, Mr. Khatri has joined us, so I request him to take over from here, and then we'll come on to. I'll take you first once he finishes up. Yeah, yeah, Mr. RC Khatri, am I audible? Khatri sahab, can you hear me? Mr. Khatri, हाँ खत्री साहब आप सुन सकते हैं मुझे? Yeah, I can see you. खत्री साहब, राजेश जी, am I audible? हाँ, yes, you are there. हाँ, please unmute yourself. हाँ जी, माइक ऑन कर लीजिए राजेश जी, माइक ऑन कर लीजिए. हाँ राजेश जी, प्लीज माइक ऑन कर लीजिए. आवाज नहीं आ रहा है. खत्री साहब माइक ऑन कीजिए.
Morning, sir.
हाँ जी, अनम्यूट कर लें.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Are you getting me?
Yeah. Hello, Mohammed. Hello,
Yeah.
Sulaiman Saab. How are you?
Good morning. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Uh,
I'm fine. I sent a questions.
yeah. You meanwhile, Mr. Khatri joins. So yes, you may please.
Yeah. My question to JPS Talwar.
Okay.
Ji, in spite of many secret passwords and messages, the bank frauds are order of the day. What are the
Okay.
existing laws which preventing bank frauds and cyber crimes in India? Are you supporting the reforms in the RBI now? So what is the net result? Whether any growth in GDP or we are going back? Can you answer this? Till our
सर
banking condition.
आवाज सुन रहे हैं सर मेरा? हेलो,
Yeah.
Dr. Mohammed,
मैं बस
Dr. Mohammed, I am stopping you. Talwar, I am stopping you for a moment. Khatri ji's link is restored. So I request Khatri ji to take over. Yeah, Khatri ji, please take over. Yeah. So friends, please welcome Mr. Rajesh Khatri, and he'll be speaking about how the investigation takes place.
afternoon,
And,
sir.
yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Rajesh ji. Please come over. जी, welcome. हाँ जी, बोलिए राजेश जी.
Good afternoon, sir. I will talk about the cyber crime, types of cyber crime. What are the modern trends in cyber crime, and what is the challenges before police officers, and how we investigate the case, how we punish cyber criminals. Sir, I just wanted to tell you what is cyber crime. Cyber has been derived from a word cybernetics, which has a Greek origin. That means skilled in establishing a god name. Cyber crime is crime involves a computer. I mean, crime committed through computer, laptop, a smartphone, mobile. But the computer, a laptop, a mobile may have been used in the commission of crime. It may be the target. I also want to tell about what are the various forms of cybercrime. The various forms of cybercrime is cyber stalking, hacking, cracking, defamation, online fraud, dissemination of material, child pornography, spoofing, phishing, virus, cyber squatting, cyber vandalism, intellectual property crime, cyber crime against government, cyber warfare, cyber terrorism, cyber crime against society, online gambling, cyber trafficking, internet trolling, and crime committed through dark web. No, there are various speaker known as about dark web. You must know about that. Google, we access Google, but Google still only about 8% of website of the world. 92% of websites are not Google. Their crimes are committed through dark net, dark web. Darknet is an overlay network in the internet that can be accessed through a specific configuration. Darknet is not used by that very weapons are being sold. Many prostitutes of different cities are also on darknet. Darknet, darknet being sold through darknet, is used for illegal such as black illegal firing the technique illegal goods uses to corruption. People use data anonymous fraud and that are easily traceable and see that is a private must route through also what is a intended to let computer fraud is
Audio is not clear.
Yeah.
You are
Okay.
not
I
getting
think.
him.
Yeah. I think some problem with the connection. As such, yeah, he's joined again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rajesh ji, please carry on.
are you hearing me,
Mr.
sir?
Khatri.
हाँ.
हाँ, आवाज आ रही है. हाँ जी जी.
I told about that Google. We access Google. Google still not only 8% of many. There is a dark web, dark net. Many people don't know about dark net. Dark net is accessed through encrypted software, encrypted configuration, anonymously, and through dark net, a number of crimes are being committed all over the world. Drugs are being sold. There are prostitutes. Even many prostitutes have come in India through dark net. Their photographs are available on the dark net. Trafficking, human trafficking are also very prevalent through dark net. Dark net use onion router, Tor. That is anonymous router that is not even known to Google. Computer fraud. I also computer fraud is any dishonest misrepresentation of fact intended to let another to do a refrain from doing something which causes loss. The fraud can take place in many ways, altering the data before entry, using false data by using unauthorized instruction, using unauthorized process, altering, destroying, suppressing, and stealing output, usually conceal unauthorized transactions. Altering and deleting stored data. Other types of fraud include bank fraud, carding, identity theft, extortion, and theft of classified information. Cyber terrorism in general can be defined as an act of terrorism committed through the use of cyberspace and computer resource. There are also hacking attacks detected through individual families organized by groups within the network, tending to cause fear among the administrative power, collecting information, reuniting cyber intelligence service other potentially yeah, is one form of cybercrime that is cyber extortion. Cyber is by electronic harass specific crime. Cyber can include monitoring someone's real time while on computer device and the computer electronic with someone also the beginning of financial of the then recording cyber crime is social picture of and picture of
राजेश जी,
Audio is very.
you're not audible. आपकी आवाज बहुत कम आ रही है, राजेश जी.
extorting money.
Yes.
राजेश जी आपकी
It's
आवाज
not
बहुत
clear.
कम है. You're not audible. खत्री साहब.
I think there is a network issue. There is a network issue. There is disruption in the network.
राजेश जी,
Some
can
network
you hear me?
problems are there.
So I think network problems are there. Voice is breaking up. Voice आ ही नहीं रही अब. राजेश जी, can you hear me?
What is not registered?
Voice is not there. So what we can do is, Khatri is also here. We can take up the questions which are there in. We can take up the questions, and then maybe if time permits, then we can go ahead with this. All right. Yeah, Rajesh.
Vijay, this is Manasvi this side. I have one more point to add. So can I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so maybe this point was missed out that for the emails also for phishing, emails look really genuine, but they are not genuine. If we see the email address from where it has come, we can see that the email address will have little bit of variation with the actual email address. Or if the email address is also looks fine, the body will have a different information that we can, if we look carefully, we can make it out that it is not genuine. So actually what happens is fraudsters make a fake email address and fake websites from which they can gather the money. So it's really important to read the emails and messages very carefully, whatever we get. That's it from my end.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Talwarji, would you like to respond to what Mansavi said?
Regarding this, I already pointed out that it's always suggested to go for a secure website, and if you are receiving a mail which is not you think to be genuine, it's always advisable to immediately delete that mail. There are chances that spurious messages are being forwarded to you, or some organ or virus may install in your the digital device, and that will extract the valuable information or the personal information to be provide that information access to the fraudster. So it is always advisable not to open the unknown email. It's always advisable. So generally, and secondly, how to identify these non-genuine emails. Like they use similar type of name. Like when we talk about the Indian bank email from Indian bank, so the mail is that India Bank dot mail has been covered from the India Bank, not Indian Bank. So the moment you see the India Bank, your mind will say this mail has come from my bank. So you click on the site and you are all that ordering virus mail is all. Like in SBI, instead of SBI, it's SBE. So the font is such that it is from the SBI, but actually it is SBE. So the same thing will happen. So yesterday only while traveling from the Delhi to Chandigarh, I saw some PNB. So but all was same, color was same, but something strike in my mind. This is not actually PNB. And I very closely watched that is a senior of PNB, that is PNB Enterprise. So all sort of fraudsters are there in the market. It's you, it's individual, you who has to be more vigilant, because it's our money, it's not fraudsters' money. Yes, sir. Sajid.
All right. Thank
Hello.
you, Talwarji, for answering this. I think Dr. Muhammad Suleiman has a question.
Yeah.
Dr. Mubarak,
Suleiman Saab, please go ahead.
Yes, sir.
what happened with the So while disclosing my details, I had used the word UAEBT. It is full form is unauthorized electronic banking transaction. The moment a customer complains that this electronic transaction is not done by me and I don't owe this transaction, what bank do? Bank give you a shadow balance. Shadow balance means now this amount is a suspense amount, and bank give you a time of 90 days. that within this 90 days, either this money will be credited in your account, or if it proves that this transaction is being authorized by you, the bank will take back it. So what happened during this
All right.
document?
Yeah. Thank you, Talwarji. Thank you. Talwarji, thanks a lot. Yeah, Dr. Mohammed Sulman, what's your question?
आवाज आ रहा है सर?
Yeah, my question is, in spite of many secret passwords and messages introduced by the bank from time to time, still the banking frauds are order of the day. So what are the laws preventing these cyber crimes in the bank as well as the bank frauds?
Sure.
Without the support of the banking officers, is it possible to take away crores of rupees?
Sir, now
Yeah.
sir, your
No,
question.
one moment, Talwarji. Talwarji, one moment. I'll request Mr. Abhishek to take up this call because I think Suleiman Saab, you joined a little late because Abhishek he talked about this 2008 Act. So I'll request him to answer because everything is in the law. So very succinctly he'll talk about the law. Yeah, because everything is governed by that aspect only.
Okay. So first, let me start by saying that as per the Reserve Bank of India rules, any fraudulent account, any fraudulent activity that has happened on your account, the first thing that you need to do is you have to report this activity within the first 3 working days. You have to call up the bank, take a acknowledgement of this fraudulent transaction, and the bank will investigate this matter in 90 days. And within that, and if the fault is not from your side, that is when the money will be reimbursed back into your account within the next 10 days.
Okay. Thank you so much. There's another question. One of my friends, Mr. L.A. Nambia, who joined us from Tanzania, his question is that they look towards us, India, as one of the country which is in the developed mode, very near to being developed mode, and especially the countries from sub-Saharan African and South Asian, they consider us as being developed. They say that you have such good computer people, IT people, and you know that a Truecaller is based at Sweden, and there are other apps also that we are running in this country. Now we know that many of them were Chinese also. He says, why don't you have your own social networking sites like Twitter, Facebook, and all this? He asked a question. I request maybe any of you to take up on this. Abhishek.
So this is absolutely, one of the great ideas, and I'm sure that everyone must have heard the latest news that says that we have banned certain, Chinese applications that were being used in India, including the famous game PUBG as well. So the point that what Ali made is absolutely right. This is a huge opportunity for to be on the top flag bearers to create applications that are much better and much secure and much safer than the applications that we are using. And somewhere I feel that we have the best possible minds in the country today who can work on building better applications. It's just that something that needs to be done from the implementation of this part, and maybe hopefully in the future we will have our own social media applications.
Right. Thank you so much. There's another question. ये question खत्री साहब को है. खत्री साहब हमारे दोस्त मिस्टर GR साहिबी साहब, डॉक्टर गीताराम साहिबी जी हिमाचल से पूछना चाहते हैं कि how to ascertain the validity and the genuineness of the caller who calls you. कैसे पता लगेगा कि जो कॉलर आपको कॉल कर रहा है वो जेन्युइन है? कैसे कर सकते हैं पता? खत्री साहब,
कॉलर जेन्युइन है या नहीं है, ये तो उसके कॉल को, जो कॉल नंबर से आ रहा है उसका कॉल को हम लोग उससे पता कर, मोबाइल फोन को हम लोग मोबाइल सर्विस प्रोवाइडर से पता कर।
आवाज बहुत कम है खत्री साहब, थोड़ा सा तेज बोल रहे हैं, थोड़ा सा तेज बोलेंगे।
मोबाइल प्रोवाइडर से उसके आइडेंटिटी के बारे में पता करके पता चलेगा कि कॉलर जेन्युइन है या नहीं है। मोबाइल सर्विस प्रोवाइडर है ना, वो पता करेगा।
जी जी जी
बताएगा
सर।
लेकिन अभी जो टाइम हो रहा है मोबाइल यूज करके
ओके, वॉइस में फिर प्रॉब्लम है। ओके तलवार जी, आप आंसर करना चाह रहे थे इस क्वेश्चन को?
हाँ जी संजीव जी, मैं आप जो कॉलर हैं आपने हिमाचल जी है, उनसे मैं जवाब देना चाहूंगा। कोई भी बैंक आपसे आपका ओटीपी के रिगार्डिंग फोन नहीं करता, कोई भी आपसे कोई पर्सनल इंफॉर्मेशन आपसे नहीं मांगता है। सिर्फ मैक्सिमम आपके पास बैंक से एक एसएमएस आता है, कोई भी इश्यूज आपके होंगे, केवाईसी अपडेट करना है तो उसके लिए आपको इशू आ जाएगा कि आप अपने बैंक में ब्रांच में जाकर आपने केवाईसी को अपडेट कराइए। तो बैंक कभी भी आपको फोन पर आपसे पर्सनल इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं लेते हैं। मार्केट में एक इस तरह का भी फ्रॉड घूम रहा है कि आपके पास फोन आएगा कि आपकी एलआईसी पॉलिसी मैच्योर होने वाली है, या आपकी जो इन्वेस्टमेंट एलआईसी की आपके दूसरे इंस्टीट्यूशन में करवा दूंगा, क्या आप चाहते हैं? तो अगर आप हाँ बोले तो मोमेंट आपने हाँ बोला और सारा पैसा उठाकर वो फ्रॉडस्टर अपने अकाउंट में ले जाएगा। तो इसलिए बैंक, कोई भी बैंक, भले प्राइवेट बैंक हो, भले सरकारी या पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक हो, कोई बैंक आपको फोन पर आपके पर्सनल डिटेल डिमांड नहीं करता है। अगर कोई डिमांड कर रहा है तो इमीडिएटली आपके कान खड़े हो जाने चाहिए कि ये जो कॉल है ये फ्रॉडस्टर की कॉल है। सावधानी घटी, दुर्घटना घटी, सेफ्टी सेफ।
राइट, थैंक यू तलवार जी। और साहिबी साहब, मैं इसमें कुछ आई वुड लाइक टू ऐड विद माय ओन एक्सपीरियंस आल्सो। I never take up a call which is not in my call book. I only take up those numbers which are saved to me. That is one. And if the number persists, because today the best part with mobile is that you always know that there is a missed call and you can always call back if you know the person. So what I do is, if the number is not known to me, I go on Truecaller and see whether the number who's this. Many a times it will tell you that it is Airtel spam, or it is bank spam, or it is HDFC Bekar, or it is in the terminology is like this only. So you only tend to know what it is. And if you think that then even Truecaller is not giving you the identity, then you can, let's say, and if the other person is persistently calling you, so then that means that there is some problem and he may be knowing you also. So you just send him a message that I am busy, kindly send your message with your identity. So then it is always good to, and I've seen this happening with all VIPs. I had, the contact of one of the MPs here in Chandigarh, and I used to get her number. And then while I used to call, I always get this message that I am busy and I'll call you back. Because she may be getting, multiple calls, and then thereafter I used to get call back from her side. So I think this can be used very pertinently. I am using this method, and it is quite effective. 7 to 8 times, because if you don't pick up the call 7 to 8 times, that person will not call you again. So आप इसको कर सकते हैं. Anshu Malhotra, you have some question you have put in on the chat box. So I request you to, take up the question and please address it to one of the panelists. Yeah, Mr. Malhotra, can you hear me? You wanted to ask a question? Mr. Anshu Malhotra, आप क्वेश्चन पूछना चाह रहे थे कुछ? Yeah, I wanted to share an experience or ask a question. So you're most welcome to do so. Yeah. Voice is not there. Anshu, voice नहीं आ रहा है आपका?
Sanjeev ji, if you say I want to add up something more in my discussion, if you time permits.
Just one
whether Mr. CBI office is available. Khatri Saab is available now.
Khatri Saab is available, but somehow his technology that way, the voice is breaking up. We can see his face, but the voice is not clear.
Bring an important question.
Maybe
regarding
some Wi-Fi or linking problem. Anshu, you wanted to ask something?
Yes, sir. One question is there. Important question.
Suleiman Saab, you
There
wanted
was
to
a
ask?
judgment. Yeah, there was a judgment. Last 15 years back, there was a judgment in Supreme Court regarding the lie detection test. If any investigation agency want to fix a person in a crime, they want to get a lie detection test. It is available in Bangalore. But before the lie detection test, they have to get the consent of the accused. So that is why lakhs of escaping everything. So far, the parliament has not taken any initiative. Never CBI has taken any initiative. So I want to know whether CBI has taken any initiative to overcome this issue.
So this is
Can you
beyond
understand
the scope of our discussion, sir.
No, the CBI officer is very much aware of that. So whether they have taken any initiative to overcome this issue.
Dr. Mohammed, actually, we have lost the link with Mr. Rajesh Khatri. Somehow, unfortunately, he
No
had
problem,
a lot
sir.
to share with us, but we have not been able to listen to him.
No problem, no
Sir, I'm
problem.
audible?
Yeah,
Yeah,
please. Yes, please. Anshu.
Yes, sir.
Please go
Sir,
ahead.
I want to, first of all, I want to share one experience of mine.
Ji,
Actually,
ji.
I have got around 7 calls from fraudsters last year. And all of these were from girls. Matlab, I want to share that so that you can get vigilant. Most of them were girls. A female voice was there. And they were asking for credit card info in the way like bonus points, that some bonus points are there, they have been collected. If you want to get them cashed, tell us or click at some link or like that. I will share some SMS like that. So I knew that because I remain in this thing, I keep on reading, and this is a very good session. So I have never clicked that, and I have never bothered. I have just disconnected and blocked that number. Second point, they call from multiple numbers. Next time I got the same type of call from some other number. So I want to share my experience that don't at these kind of things. Number two, they have some information in advance so that you can believe them. Like they know date of birth, they know your even PAN card number, and even where your account is. These things, I think, this is my question to the Mr. Abhishek or Mr. Talwar. When we swap our card during shopping, or like that some area, so is there any way they get information from that, like this information, that your PAN card, your date of birth and all that? So this is my question to you. Is there possibility when we swap the cards this information get leaked? Because I haven't filled any form like that, that I have shown my publicly my PAN card and all that. So I just want to know this thing. Yeah.
Sir, may I have opportunity to answer this?
Yeah, sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, basically what happens, generally in routine process, whenever we apply for any credit card, whenever we apply for any home loan through a home loan counselor, not directly to the bank, to the home loan counselor, or we share our information through a public platform like a railway reservation and other platforms, your information is being your virtual identity is being leaked out. I have received many complaints in which a customer say I didn't receive any SMS alert from your bank and this fraud has happened. But when we go back into our logbook, we check that SMS at this time has been sent to you twice. But customers say the SMS has not been received by me. So what it was later is revealed that that has come out of investigation that fraudster was able to get a duplicate SIM card. That how he get a duplicate SIM card? Your virtual documents like Aadhaar card or PAN card, if he is possessing, with the help of those documents, he is in position to procure your SIM card. The moment he procured a new SIM card, your original SIM card is blocked, and all SMS alerts and all OTPs are diverted to your new SIM card. So you left aloof. So there are chances that your virtual identity is being hacked away by the fraudster, and that is being used. This type of problems we are facing in bank state on day-to-day basis. So it is very, very important whenever you hand over your KYC documents. That means know your customer documents, that is Aadhaar card, PAN card, vote card, your DL, and all these things. Put a cross over it and show that and write this is submitted to XYZ bank for this purpose, and with along with your signature, put a date on it so that it's become a little bit difficult for a fraudster to use your identity. And while making a line, try to do in such a way that one digit of your that document is overlapped. one digit is overlapped, so that if we try to get photocopy of that document, that digit is already passed away. So these are the few precautions what you can take while handing over your document to third person. So it's only a precaution which is going to save you against any, that is a cyber threat or coronavirus. It's only a precaution. What we can do, and it's ultimately our fate, destiny. What is going to happen, it will happen. Sir.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Talwar. I think Mr. Ashish Jindal wants to ask a question. Mr. Jindal? Mr. Ashish Jindal, you still with us?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You wanted to ask a question? Please go ahead.
I want to ask that nowadays on Facebook and various social platforms, we are able to see that there are various attractive schemes for the youngsters who are gullible at this moment of, as they are not able to get a job, that you can make various dollars in within the 24 hours. Where they are able to get the information of the clients. I just want to know that in most of the cases, I have found that the IDs that have been made are just 4 hours old or maybe a few days back. So how we can able to get track of that?
See, let me tell you, this is a very good question that you actually asked us. Very interesting question, and I think we should definitely cover this thing. So there are certain things that you can see, and you can identify a fake profile on Facebook or any social media account. So there are few things that you have to look at. First of all, as you rightly pointed out, how new is the profile? Every fake profile that is being used for a fraudulent activity will be a new profile. Second thing, there will be not many friends in that profile. The profile pictures or whatever he's posting on that particular profile, he will not be posting any real pictures. He will be posting all generalized pictures. Like there will be a scenery, there will be some kisi actor ka photo lagaya hoga. So there won't be genuine photographs of that particular person. Thirdly, जो भी वो पोस्ट कर रहा है, उसमें आप देखिए फेक प्रोफाइल जो क्रिएट होते हैं, उसमें लाइक्स भी बहुत कम होते हैं. Because not many people know this profile, so there are less number of likes on this profile. And fourthly, if you see that all these fake profiles that are created, even the names and all will not be it would not be generally a proper name with a proper person. Identity में बहुत गड़बड़ होगा, तो उसका नाम नहीं, मतलब प्रोफाइल पिक्चर खुद का नहीं रहेगा, कमेंट्स उसके ऊपर ज्यादा नहीं रहेंगे, लाइक्स ज्यादा नहीं रहेंगे, इवन फ्रेंड लिस्ट भी कम रहेगा, एंड टोटली रिलेटिवली द प्रोफाइल विल बी न्यू. सो दीज आर द 4 थिंग्स दैट यू हैव टू लुक इन फॉर अ फेक प्रोफाइल. क्योंकि अगर आप रियल प्रोफाइल देखोगे तो उसमें काफी सारे कमेंट्स दिखेंगे, काफी सारे पिक्चर्स दिखेंगे, काफी सारे लाइव इवेंट्स दिखेंगे. तो फेक प्रोफाइल्स में ये सब चीजें यू विल नॉट सी. सो दिस इज वन डिफरेंशिएटर दैट यू कैन लुक. Baki, as I always said, that you have to use your own due diligence to understand if an offer is really true to be believed or not.
All right. Thank you, Abhishek ji, for very rightly, pointing out things. So, friends, we come to an end of this webinar. I really like to thank the 3 eminent panelists of today, Mr. Abhishek Upadhyay, Mr. JPS Talwar, and Mr. R.C. Khatri. For having their precious time here and then being so informative and enlightening us on the entire issue. The only hitch was that due to this connectivity problem, we could not actually listen to what Khatri ji had to offer, and as I was discussing with him earlier, it was very interesting. Just to sum it up and to provide you some food for your thought. Basically, the law is of 2008. 12 years have passed, and somehow after listening to Abhishek ji, I found out that the cost benefit analysis of the law sends you in the direction wherein it is easier to go for fraud, and the cost is less and the benefit is more. So therefore, this is always a luring and open area for the fraudsters. Secondly, you will only be caught if you get into human emotions like greed, fear, And then couple this with our Indian attitude of chalta hai, wherein even what to talk about others. Even I, when they say terms and conditions, would ask you to put yes. I always put yes to that way. Maybe it is wrong also, because we think that भी जो होगा वो बाद में देखा जाएगा, we अभी का काम चलाएं, as such. So that has to go now, and then it is better to be safe today rather than to be sorry tomorrow. That is another what Talwarji also pointed out, that Savdhani hati durghatna ghati. So therefore, we know that today we are in such an ecosystem and an environment. We have to live globally. We cannot live into silos. The technology is here to stay. It is for our benefit. We have to see the pros and the cons have to be minimized and to be minus the cons, so that the risk can only be mitigated. It cannot be eliminated altogether. So we have to have that risk mitigation strategies. You have different bank account number, different email ID, different phone number, all this, so that the fraudsters, they are not able to take up these issues from here. And friends, with your support, now this is the 12th session that we are doing, and now we have created a channel also by the name of IHRDI, International Human Resource Development Initiative. This is a channel on YouTube, and all the videos, all the recordings that we have earlier of very important topics like even parenting, even impact of COVID on economy, entrepreneurship, on business, they are available there. And plus, we are providing e-certificates to all those participants who have joined us today. So I request all of you, to send your message on my WhatsApp number, which is which I just put it on the chat box also, 8727857116. So you can send it across to them. We'll put you on our mailer list also. And thereafter, we'll issue you e-certificate also. We'll take your feedback also, so that this will give us support and strength to go on to those topics which are beneficial to you. And then, friends, please don't, the IHRDI, this channel, which is therein on YouTube, please subscribe, share it, like it, and then please press the bell icon, so that whatever you do, the subscription comes to you, the information comes to you. So once again, thanks to all of you for joining us on this Sunday afternoon. It was off day also, and so friends, here and goodbye to all of you, sayonara, and then be safe, take care. Thank you so much.